Hey everybody, welcome to Unit 4. We're back for another weekly walkthrough, and I'm going to share my screen with you and walk you through this week's assignments. Now, this week is very important because it is the foundation for really the rest of the class. We are starting the assignment that is your biggest paper, the argument paper. Now, that of course is not due until week 7. However, everything that you're doing between now and then builds into and helps you to complete that assignment. So you should now be seeing my screen. I'm going to turn on the student view just so it's a little bit easier, um, and it looks like you guys are going to see it. As usual, I'm going to remind you that when you first log in, you should be seeing the announcements, and everything that I post in the announcements is designed to help you succeed in the course. So please pay attention to the announcements and especially to anything that comes from me to your student email account, because I will send you reminders, helpful hints, things of that nature. Um, if there's a paper that you need to redo, I'm going to email you about it, that sort of thing. So please, please, please pay attention to that. We are entering Unit 4. So we're going to click on Unit 4, and you are working on evaluating and incorporating sources. Now, we've already sort of started this with the assignment from week 2, where you located an article that you found to be reliable using the post-university library resources. So you were doing, continuing that same work. So all of your research that you're going to be doing from now until the end of the course should be solid academic library research, using the post resources. And this week, you're going to be relating your searching and your discussion to a specific topic that you will then turn into your research paper, that is coming up. Under this week's readings and resources, as usual, I'm going to remind you, make sure that you do the reading assignments. So there's links directly in our Blackboard to where you need to read. And then, of course, there is a video. Video is only 3 minutes and 42 seconds long. I promise you, you can watch that. And then on evaluating sources, there's a couple of other readings and an activity that will help you learn how to create a references page. You also can use, back in Unit 1, the template for the APA paper. I keep reminding folks about that because it's so much easier than starting from scratch. And then when you are locating research in the library, the APA citations are presented for you, so you can use those and just drop them, copy and paste them into your Word documents. So those are your reading and resources. And then, of course, that doing that will help you get ready for the 2 assignments. This week is a writing assignment week. So you have a discussion board assignment and an actual formal writing assignment. Let's look first at the Unit 4 discussion board. You are going to pick a topic that you're going to continue to use throughout the rest of the term. So take some time to be thinking about these issues. Now, in the discussion board, you're going to choose pros and cons to all 3 of them. So in the discussion board, you're going to be talking about all 3: wage standards, screen time for kids, and jury duty. And then in the assignment and going forward, you're only going to focus on one of those 3. So use the discussion board to kind of help you decide which of those topics that you are most interested in. And then in your discussion that you should post by Wednesday, you're going to answer the 2 questions. So 2 questions, 2 paragraphs. All right. at least two. And you might want to divide it up into, instead of dividing it into one pro paragraph and one con paragraph, divide it into pros and cons with wage standards, pros and cons with screen time for kids, and pros and cons with jury duty. So you can decide how you want to divide that up, whether it's pros for each and then cons for each, or pro, con, pro, con, pro, con. But ultimately, you will have 3 pros and 3 cons, and you will talk about each one of those topics: wage standards, screen time for kids, and jury duty. Then we get into the Unit 4 assignment, which is the formal writing assignment. And again, this is the same topics, but now you're down to 1, because you're going to be doing some actual in-depth writing and research on these. And you're going to be continuing to use that throughout the weeks that come. So you're going to have 2 paragraphs in your formal writing assignment. So your document should have a cover page. On page 2, possibly onto page 3, we'll have the 2 paragraphs, 1 pro, 1 con, and then we'll have a references page. If your paragraphs both fit on 1 page, the references will be on page 3. Otherwise, they might be on page 4. I wouldn't go any longer than 2 pages, because it's literally only 2 paragraphs. Now, these paragraphs can then become part of your argument essay. So really take these seriously, spend some time on them. And most importantly, you are going to be using sources to back up both your pro and your con. So let's look at the assignment sheet. Now, a lot of you, I still suspect, are not really digging into these assignment sheets, and I don't know why, because everything you need to know is in there. This talks you through every step of the way. You're going to choose one of the topics. You're going to use the library database to search for articles. Don't just put in the words pros and cons, okay? A lot of times when we get frustrated with library research, it's just because we're being overly specific or not using the terms that we should. So when you research wage standards, just start with wage standards. Just start with that phrase. The main debate, of course, is over whether or not there should be an increase in minimum wage. So you can also search for minimum wage. You can search for, should minimum wage be $15? Should minimum wage not be $15? You can use the terms pro and con there, but play around with your search terms. Screen time for children. You may not even be able to find things with that exact phrase in it, but you can play around with kids and screen time, kids and laptops, kids and TV, time limits for screen time might be a good search to use. So play around with that. And if you ever have trouble finding research, make sure you reach out to the librarians. They love to help folks find information. So you need to have 2 articles, one that's kind of on the pro side and one that's on the con side. You may find articles that cover both, which is fine, but you still need to have 2 paragraphs and 2 articles. And in those paragraphs, you need to include a paraphrase or rewording of a concept that the author talks about. So instead of using a direct quote this time, we're practicing our paraphrasing or summarizing skills. And then we still have to have that in-text citation. Some of you were missing those in the Unit 2 assignment. So go back to Unit 2. If you didn't do well on that writing assignment, go back to Unit 2 and reread the information on creating in-text citations, because it's something that you're going to need to know, not only in our class, but in every class where you have to write a paper. So create your pro paragraph using your pro article, include a paraphrase or summary of the evidence, and include an in-text citation. Then you have a con paragraph, and finally a references page for the 2 articles that you use. So the requirements are shown here for you. Submit it as a Word document or PDF. I had a bunch of folks, even still going all the way back to Unit 1, who never replaced their paragraph that was just typed in and made it into an essay that is in a document, and now it's too late to redo those. So it's really important, though, that going forward, you're always following that direction. And the instructions and the template are always available back in Unit 1. You can't look at upcoming units, but you can always go back and look at the previous ones. You will have then an APA formatted title page and proper style formatting on the document, 1-inch margins, double spacing. Each paragraph should be 7 to 9 sentences. So the pro paragraph and the con paragraph, both 7 to 9 sentences each. Use evidence from an academic and reliable library source that is either paraphrased or summarized. Now, if you also include a quote, that's fine, but you have to have something that is put in your own words and still cited. Avoid using I and we. Use third-person objective language, and really, really spend some time proofreading your work before you submit it. Okay. As usual, you can look ahead at how the grade will be determined. The evaluation rubric is also always included in that assignment sheet. Honestly, I really recommend printing out these assignment sheets. I know that doing everything electronically is fantastic, but sometimes having it in a physical paper form so that you can go back to it and back to it and back to it really helps you create a better assignment. While we're thinking about that, I do want to show you in the library stuff where to find the citations. So let's go to, let's just go back. There's a link on the class page. Let me go out of that. And click on the library. So I didn't talk much about jury duty. So let's use that one as our sample. So I'm going to start with literally the most basic search, which is going to be jury duty. I'm not going to use pro and con yet. I just want to find out what I can find out about jury duty. And with a basic search, I've got a ton, okay, 400 plus thousand. But one of the cool things that the library does is give you this research starter. So let's click on it and see what kinds of things it points us towards. Well, it doesn't want to open. There we go. It's just tired. That's all. So if I find something using the library, which is what I have done, one thing I want you to notice is over on the right-hand column, there is a button that says Cite. So every time you locate a source that you think you want to use, I go ahead and create a references page. Even if I end up discarding that article later, I go ahead and save it in my Word document. So if you click on the Cite button, APA is not the very first, but it's close to the top. You scroll down just a little bit, and this phrase right here, this is the entire citation that would then go in my Word document. So it's going to be the author's name and the year, the title of the article, and then the title of the source. So you can literally copy this, Command C, copy it, and paste it into a Word document. When you paste it into a Word document, sometimes you have to put back in the italics and things like that, but at least you have the basic information in the order that it goes. Your references pages will always be plain double spaced with a hanging indent. This one is so short it would not go over one line, but if it is over one line, every line after the first is a 1/2 inch indented, which is again where using that template can come in handy because they've already got that set up for you. But if you need help setting up a hanging indent in Word, you can search for hanging indent and it will kind of walk you through the process. Some of them will be a lot longer and they will go over the two lines. So if this was something I was using, I would go ahead and copy and paste this into my document. And then when I cite it in text, it's going to be Saunders and the number, the year 2019. Let's take a look at another article that might have a longer citation. This is from an ebook, so it's going to be much longer, but it also, we're clearly not going to read the whole entire thing. But let's pull the citation first. It's still not super long. But now I've still got the author and I've still got the year. So that's always what's going to go in my in-text citation. If there was not a date, and sometimes there will not be, then we would see an N period, D period, which literally stands for no date. And you do have to use that even if there isn't a year. So stay away from Google, use the library resources. If you have trouble finding sources, reach out to a librarian. There's a link right at the top. Ask a librarian. And especially if you have trouble, finding pros and cons or whatever, I'm just for curiosity, I'm going to put in Jury Duty Pro and see what kinds of things I get. This article is interesting looking. Bad ways to dodge jury duty. So that probably does have something to do with using, being willing to serve on a jury. So let's just pull that one up. It's kind of interesting. It's not a super long article. It's only one page. It's all on page 24. But here again is my citation. And it's fairly short. Now, one thing I'm glad I pulled this one up because I want you to note that when you copy and paste this into your Word document, you should uncapitalize everything but the first letter in the last name. Sometimes they do that. And really, honestly, in APA, we would also not capitalize any word other than the first word in this title. So bad would stay capitalized, but ways, dodge, jury, and duty would all be lowercase. Now, if you forget to do that, I'm not going to count it wrong because they didn't do it right. But it's one of the rules that we eventually kind of figure out with APA style, that they do not use the old-fashioned title capitalization the same way you might have done in English in high school if you used MLA, which you might have done. And we see that further down, but we are using APA for everything. So it's close to the top. So we would copy and paste that. And then in our citation, we would have Underhill and 2019 in the in-text citation. But this whole thing goes on your references page. So that's it. That's what you got to do this week. I wish you luck. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. If it's about finding sources, of course, asking a librarian is probably faster and easier than asking me. But if it's about writing the paragraphs and that sort of thing, by all means, reach out to me and I can get you some extra help with that. So everybody have a great week. Take care. And I look forward to reading your pros and cons on all 3 issues on the discussion board, as well as your one issue with a pro paragraph and a con paragraph in your writing assignments. Everybody have a great week. Take care.